George McBridge is the CEO of Hanway Associates, an advisory group in the European cannabis sector. Hello, and thank you for joining us. So it sounds like business or investments is booming.
Yes, things are starting to pick up. It's nowhere near the size of industry that we currently see in North America, in the US and Canada, but we're starting to see the progress that we've seen in changing regulations and changing attitudes translate into opportunities for entrepreneurs, exciting opportunities for investors, and in the long run, cheaper products that are more available for patients. So this is great news in general.
George, we appreciate you being on GB News and bringing us your expertise. Just fill us in for viewers, well, for me actually, I'm losing track here. Where does the law stand in the UK on the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes as opposed to the US, with the added complication that it can differ between states of the US? Just give us a quick summary of where we are from a legal point of view.
Okay, sure. So in most states in the US, you can get a recommendation from a doctor that then allows you to buy as much cannabis of any different product type that you like. Also, in most of the most densely populated places in the US, cannabis is now legal regardless of whether it's for a medical purpose. So you can buy most cannabis products without even a recommendation from the doctor. Whereas in the UK, you need a prescription from a doctor, and that doctor has to be more than just a GP. It has to be a specialist consultant. So there are very few doctors in the UK who can write these prescriptions. But once you get a prescription, then it's just like any other medication, and you can go and get it in your pharmacy. However, a lot of people in the UK aren't aware of this. We did some polling, and it was about 50% of the UK public who aren't aware that medical cannabis is now legal. It is legal. There are about 5,000 patients in the UK, which pales in comparison to the fact that there are over 1 million people in the UK currently using black market cannabis for some sort of medical purpose.
Wow, that's a really interesting summary of the situation. How big can this sector become? You know, your company's obviously a serious outfit. We were talking earlier about companies launching shares on the stock exchange in the medicinal cannabis sector. I mean, is there lots and lots of money in this, lots and lots of jobs in this, do you think?
Yes, in the long run, if we're looking at legalizing access to cannabis in the same way that's happened across North America, this has the potential to become a huge industry. You know, if this industry was fully legalized in the UK tomorrow, we could expect companies to be selling between 400 and 600 tons of cannabis a year. So you're talking about an industry that could create in excess of £1 billion in revenue for the Treasury every year, and billions of pounds worth of opportunities for private companies. So at the moment, there's only 5,000 patients. There's probably somewhere around 2.5 or 3 million people in the UK who use cannabis regularly. So obviously there's a huge gap between legal access and access at the moment. And if we see the kind of reforms that are happening around the world here in the UK, we can expect this industry to keep growing rapidly for years and years to come.
What sort of conditions you could get a prescription for medical cannabis in the UK?
So in the UK, we actually have quite a broad range of conditions for which you can get access to medical cannabis. In certain countries, they restrict it to a short list. But the reality is that you have to have tried 2 other medications that didn't work for your condition before you're then eligible for cannabis. So we're seeing a lot of people with conditions like chronic pain who are having to try opiates, drugs like tramadol and fentanyl, before they're then allowed access to cannabis products, which don't carry the risk of overdose and death and a lot of the other side effects that people experience with current pharmaceutical medications. So it's a restrictive environment for getting access. But the range of different conditions is quite wide, and we're seeing people access cannabis for multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, chronic pain, anxiety, insomnia, all sorts of conditions. But the evidence base is growing. Doctors are starting to become more comfortable with these medications, and we're expecting the industry to grow and grow in the UK.
I don't think anyone serious, George, can now doubt the medical benefits of cannabis and the big business involvement that we're seeing in the US and increasingly here is testament to that. But I have to ask you a question on behalf of maybe some of the student population of the UK. Are we going to end up with Amsterdam-style coffee shops in the UK, do you think?
Well, personally, I hope so. I think we can do a lot better than Amsterdam. I think that's a 70s model, and it's quite outdated and very different from what you'd see in Los Angeles or Las Vegas or Denver or wherever in the US. But the reality is that the appetite isn't there from the current government, despite there is a majority of the public in support of cannabis legalization. If you look at London, 68% of the electorate are in support of full cannabis legalization. So in our urban areas, there's a really strong demand for reform of cannabis laws. But in some of the more conservative rural areas where more votes are being fought for currently in our current political landscape, there isn't as much appetite. But every year the polling gets better, support grows and grows for the cannabis industry, and politicians have been left far behind the public in the US. There's now 70% of the US public in support of full legalization at the federal level, and yet they're still struggling to get these laws passed. So outdated attitudes, misunderstanding around the risks of cannabis, and other niche political issues hold this back. But I'm still very confident about seeing major cannabis reform over the next 5 years in the UK. It's a shame that we're not seeing the appetite from this current government to improve our system and help people get access to these medications and potentially one day in the long run have access just for their own relaxation or however people want to use these products.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.